Quereinsteiger, wenn man Bock hat, wenn man sagt, ich habe zwar in dem Bereich nichts gelernt, ist mir egal, aber ich bin übelst kompetent in dem, was ich gemacht habe, ich bin diszipliniert, ich habe durchgehasselt, ich will jetzt was anderes machen, ich bin bereit zu geben und zu machen und zu tun und zu lernen und dann geht's rein. Also ehrlich, das ist vollkommen überflüssig, also vollkommen überflüssig, den Scheiß.
Weil ich will ja so Pflegemarketing auch machen, durch diese Weiterbildung.
Aber dann hast du eventuell das Problem, dass beim erneuten Jobswechsel, dass du kein Wisch in der Hand hast und dass du ein bisschen auf das Deutschland ankommt, oder? In Deutschland kommt es darauf an, dass du eine Qualifikation hast bei gewissen Dingen, wo du nur eine Qualifikation haben musst. Und das stimmt. Also du musst ein abgeschlossenes Jurastudium haben, um gewisse rechtliche Sachen zu machen. Du musst ein abgeschlossenes Medizinstudium haben, um gewisse Medizinsachen zu machen. Du musst eine ausbilderakademische oder eine pädagogische Prüfung ablegen, um Ausbildungssachen zu machen. Safe. Aber wir reden hier von Marketing. Hier geht's nicht darum, die will nicht Elektriker werden, sondern sie sagt, sie will im Marketing einsteigen und sie will Social Media machen. Und es gibt dafür keine Ausbildung, die ich als wichtig genug erachte, um zu belegen, dass du das kannst. Das, was du im Marketing brauchst, ist fucking berufliche Erfahrung. Berufliche Erfahrung, berufliche Erfahrung, berufliche Erfahrung, berufliche Erfahrung. Also im Marketing, Alter, So, das ist, nee. Da brauchst du keinen Kurs machen, da musst du kein Dings machen, gar nicht. Null. Also wirklich, ne? Keine Ahnung, ich hatte ich bin ja jetzt auch schon ganz lange in unterschiedlichen Kontakt mit unterschiedlichen Managements und so. Ich habe noch nie gemerkt, dass jemand eine bessere oder eine schlechtere Arbeit macht, ob er ein Studium abgeschlossen hat im Marketing oder nicht. Die Leute, die mir in Erinnerung geblieben sind, mit denen ich zusammengearbeitet habe, sind die Leute, die berufliche Disziplin hatten und durchgehasselt haben, weil sie die Begeisterung für das hatten. Nicht, dass sie den Studienabschluss hatten, weil du kannst... Nee. Also ich würde das Argument machen... No, my sword. Das ist natürlich Ausbildungssachen, ich würde das Argument machen... Jegliche Marketing-Ausbildung ist nutzlos. Viel wichtiger ist es, in dem Bereich einfach arbeiten zu wollen und geh rein. Das ist nun wirklich, dieser bestimmte Bereich ist nun wirklich nicht gegatekeept durch irgendwelche Qualifikationen, weil du wen aufschreiben musst, weil du irgendwas Rechtliches labern musst, weil du wen ausbilden musst oder sowas. Nee, gar nicht. Ne? Rein. Und wenn die sagen, die wollen eine Ausbildung, kannst du nächstes Unternehmen anfragen. Bernstein, rein.
Ja. Ich spüre Mamas Angst.
Es ist ja auch okay, wenn du sagst, ich will jetzt von Comedy leben oder wovon auch immer oder selbstständig werden. Aber du musst ja irgendwie dich dann weiter finanzieren können.
Kannst du auch das möchten, wie du das dir vorstellst?
Burn it down! Branches the song. Get to work!
Selbstständig Social Media, habe ich das jetzt richtig verstanden?
Selbstständig ist nicht gleich. Ja, ich kenne jemanden, der Pflegemarketing macht.
Ja.
Ich kenne jemanden, der selbstständig in der Pflege ist. Aber die Bedingungen, in diesem Job zu arbeiten, in diesem System, sind ja auch total schön.
Ja, mag auch sein. Nee. Das ist auch einfach zu sagen, dass du dann vielleicht nicht einfach hinschmeißt und dann denkst, und dann überlege ich, was ich mache, sondern man überlegt vorher, was man macht. Und versucht also sich das zweite Standbein zu behalten.
Also meine Hoffnung war, wo Jenny dann...
Ach, fuck it, einfach rein. Ey, ganz ehrlich, wenn du das nicht machst, wenn du jung bist, dann kannst du es nie wieder machen. Das ist das Ding. Einfach, ey, wenn du es nicht machst, wenn du jung... Du kannst es nicht machen, wenn du irgendwie am Ende bist. Du kannst es nur am Anfang machen. Du kannst es wirklich nur am Anfang machen. Du kannst es nicht machen, wenn du alt bist. Oder du kannst es schlechter machen, wenn du alt bist. Die besten Chancen ist am Anfang. Du hast eine abgeschlossene Ausbildung. Du hast berufliche Erfahrung.
Fuck it.
Die Leute sind unglücklich in ihren Jobs. Ey, die müssen dann halt... Mehr als ein Nein kannst du ja nicht bekommen. Mehr als ein Nein kannst du ja nicht bekommen. Das ist ja das Schlimmste, was passieren kann. Nee, wollen wir nicht. Ja dann, wenn das das Schlimmste ist, was passieren kann? Hä? Wenn das das Schlimmste ist, was passieren kann?
Rise with the sun!
Machen gegangen.
Luscious the moon. Show no mercy!
Das kann ja mit, du kannst ja mit Menschen umgehen und sprechen und so weiter. War das in Ordnung. Aber dass sie ihr Leben schaffen, so wie sie
Burn it down!
und nicht irgendwo abrutscht, das ist schon...
Mama, machst du dir Sorgen um mein Leben, ja oder nein?
Ich mache mir Sorgen, wenn du machst und dir gefällt nicht, wie es kommt. Und ich habe Angst, wenn du nicht zufrieden bist. Und dass dir alles nicht gefällt und du dann keinen Mut mehr hast oder keine...
Machst du dir Sorgen?
Ja. Daniel.
Ja, Eltern machen sich aber immer Sorgen. Oh, ey, ich weiß noch, als meine Mutter... Oh mein Gott, das war es, als ich angefangen habe zu streamen. Ich hab mir ein halbes Jahr
Rise with the sun! Rain outlines your
Mein
face.
Projekt war damals zu Ende.
Receive my blessing. Fulfill our path!
Ich habe keinen Bock, Jobs. Ich habe ein bisschen was gespart. Aber wirklich wenig. 2, 3 Ich hatte gesagt, gib mir ein halbes Jahr, damit ich streamen kann und gucken, was bei rumkommt. Und meine Mutter hat mich für komplett bescheuert erklärt. Meine Mutter hätte mir fast die Fresse poliert. Und wisst ihr, wie ich das rausgekriegt habe? Am Ende meiner Versuchszeit habe ich den Auszug von meinem Fußballkonto gezeigt. Die hat nie wieder was gemacht. Die hat gesagt,
Ja.
na mal gut. Aber die Scheiße, Alter. Die Scheiße, ne? Die Scheiße kenne ich.
Ja.
Ich kann schon verstehen, dass meine Eltern Sorgen haben. Aber ich würde mir so wünschen, dass sie...
Würdest du sagen, es ist jetzt zu spät mit Stream anzufangen? Es ist jetzt zu spät mit Stream anzufangen und zu warten, dass man damit erfolgreich wird. Ja. Stream ist einfach überlaufen as fuck. Es gibt so viele kleine, interessante Streamer, die nie mehr als 50 Viewer haben werden, obwohl die eigentlich ziemlich interessant abliefern. Ich glaube, durch einen extremen Zufall wird man vielleicht noch giga erfolgreich. Aber es gibt so viele Mikrostreamer, so viele kleine Streamer, so viel Content allgemein, ist so ein überlaufenes System. Ist crazy. Ist crazy.
mehr an mich glauben.
Ich würde sagen, man kann sich ein gutes Taschengeld dazu verdienen. Ich würde sagen, ey, ein bisschen streamen. Ich meine, wenn du zocken würdest oder wenn du irgendwas machen würdest nach der Arbeit, ganz crazy. Würde ich sagen, Teilzeit geben und dann schauen, wenn du einen großen Stream hast, den einfach dazu machen. Und dann einfach so die Zeit so ein bisschen ausgleichen. Ne, so ein kleines Taschengeld on top. Das finde ich, glaube ich, ist eine gute Idee. Aber das hängt auch ein bisschen davon ab, ob das erfolgreich genug ist. Aber das sehe ich auf jeden Fall. Das geht. Ne, man kann ja auch schon mit diesen Live-Zeit, Teilzeit, 50 Viewern kann man schon ein bisschen on top gehen. Ne?
Light it up! Ring cutter! Die the frost moon of old. Show no mercy! Suffer the trap!
Das ist auch eine
Ich musste erst mal durchstehen. Da sind 2 Jahre. Und dann, weil ich keine Zeugnisse mehr brauche, habe ich einen Hauptschulabschluss erstmal gemacht.
Burn it down!
In der Zeit habe ich auch viel Musik gemacht. Ich habe viele Musikvideos gedreht und dadurch habe ich wirklich meinen Passion so gefunden, wo ich denke, wow, das ist genau, was ich machen möchte. Game Changer. Ich kann einfach meine Erinnerungen speichern. Ich kann einfach die Leute was zeigen. Das ist einfach mein drittes Auge geworden. Und das ist...
Wo kommt der her? Aus Syrien kommt er.
Was mich wirklich gecatcht hat bei der Kameraarbeit.
Alter, die Mucke, hier ganz ehrlich, hier hat jemand einfach seine Playlist abgelegt.
Und dann habe ich nachgeguckt, wo kann ich so irgendwas mit Kamera studieren oder lernen oder so. Und dann habe ich die Ausbildung als Mediengestalter für Ton und Bild gefunden. Und ich war so, wow, das ist es.
Das ist so schön.
Ich konnte von einem Zeit Urlaub machen, konnte eine Ausbildung machen. Hatte eine sehr, sehr schöne Zeit am Meer. Hab dann, als ich zurückkam, mit sehr viel Motivation und sehr viel Energie wieder angefangen zu arbeiten. Also es hat mir so einen richtigen Boost gegeben.
Wurde der skatet mit Minimum 5K in der Hand, das würde ich mich nicht trauen. Kein Ding, das war ein Longboard, das hält das aus. Das kann das. Wenn der auf dem normalen
Another test subject. Rise with the sun! Know my soul! Lush as the moonlight. Fulfill our pact! Light up the blazing sun!
Das ist ungefähr ein halbes Jahr später. Da hatten wir ein Projekt, an dem meine Kollegen und ich gearbeitet haben.
Light it up! Let me weave you a verse. Branch into song. Show no mercy!
Qualität liefern, die ich gerne möchte. Und hatte das Gefühl, ich sitze da und repräsentiere etwas, was ich eigentlich gar nicht glaube. Ja, gut. Also der reine wirtschaftliche Profit, darin habe ich keinen Sinn gesehen für mich.
Interesting.
Und ich habe mich dann gefragt, wofür mache ich diesen Stress eigentlich?
Da interessiert mich einfach, was sie zu dem Zeitpunkt verdient hat.
Hi, sag mal, kannst du mir den Text von dem Video nochmal schicken? Ein Freund von mir arbeitet im Marketing für so eine Pflegeagentur, die so Pflegekurse für Angehörige und so anbietet.
Pflege?
Und da hat er an mich
Es gibt echt für alles Marketing, Alter.
gedacht. Okay, Moment. Auch dieser Sommer bringt wieder Hitzetage mit über 30 Grad. Auch dieser Sommer bringt wieder Hitzetage mit über 30 Grad. Gerade für ältere und pflegebedürftige Menschen ist es sehr anstrengend. Damit du deinen Angehörigen gut durch die Hitze bringst, sind hier 5 Tipps für deinen Angehörigen. Nee. Mach tagsüber am besten die Rolle oder okay.
Okay.
Zweitens, längere Zeit in der prallen
Pflegemarketing ist so am Kommen. Jede scheiß Klinik hat jetzt einen eigenen Instagram-Account. Wir haben alle einen Instagram-Account.
Rain outlines your fate. Receive my blessing with one heart. You two! Time to end red from the sky!
An dieser Hitztag über 30 Grad. Gerade für ältere und pflegebedürftige Menschen. Eigentlich sollte man das auswendig lernen können, kurz immer.
Das ist ein idealer Einsatz für einen Prompter. Einen Prompter, das ist so ein Ding, was man hinter die Kamera macht und die Kamera dahinter stellt. Dann kann man den Text ablesen, die Kamera filmt durch und du musst dir nie wieder fragen, was los ist.
Ich bin nicht mittig genug. 5 Tipps, die im Alltag helfen. Tipp Nummer 1.
Das ist kein Problem, das kann man schneiden.
Das mittiger stehen oder so. Gerade bei Wenn ein Angehöriger verwirrt ist, Kopfschmerzen hat oder die Haut ganz trocken wird, könnte das ein Anzeichen für Hitzestress sein. Dann solltet ihr ganz schnell aus der Sonne gehen oder bei schlimmeren Symptomen einen Arzt aufsuchen. Das war's von mir. Viel Spaß euch beim Arzt.
Guck dir doch mal die Rollen an, Digga. Du kannst über einen Bordstein fahren mit dem Ding. Ach, die ist auch am Rumsurfen mit. Ich dachte, das ist unser Margin oder so. Warum fahren die denn alle Longboard?
Diesem einen konkreten Meeting mit den Kunden, an dem Abend habe ich entschieden, dass ich kündigen werde. Also ich habe irgendwie innerlich so eine radikale Entscheidung getroffen, zu kündigen. Und ohne dass ich den Schritt schon durchgezogen hatte, hat sich das schon...
Ich würde sagen,
This
Longboard ist
realm
wieder
is
cool, seitdem
truly
die ganzen Influencer von der Scheiße weg sind, oder? Ist so.
wie ein Befreiungsschlag angefühlt, allein diese Entscheidung.
Wenn man starke Angst hat vor großen Entscheidungen, ist das erstmal völlig okay und völlig normal. Das geht allen Menschen so. Und die Frage ist, können wir diese große Entscheidung auch teilen in kleine Teilentscheidungen? Müssen wir zum Beispiel immer gleich einen Job kündigen oder können wir sagen, wir fahren runter, machen nur 70-60% und probieren in den anderen 40%, die sich dann auftun, zum Beispiel etwas Neues aus und merken dann, ist das was für mich oder nicht. Das heißt, ich kann die Folge der Entscheidung auch häufig ein bisschen abpuffern. Und wenn ich das mache, fällt mir die Entscheidung viel leichter.
Lifestyle Teilzeit halt. Was ist denn jetzt passiert, Digga? Ist hier fucking Werbung drin oder was?
Oh, jetzt ist so schön.
Digga, ist hier einfach fucking Werbung. Okay. Das habe ich ja noch nie gesehen. Ist das nicht öffentlich-recht? What?
Ich bin nach Australien gegangen, beim Camper unterwegs. Einerseits fand ich es total toll,
Van Life.
dass ich nicht arbeiten musste, dass ich diese Freiheit hatte, dass ich nicht aufstehen musste. Und gleichzeitig hatte ich dadurch das Gefühl, dass ich nicht so richtig in die Gänge komme. Ich konnte irgendwie mit dieser vollkommenen Freiheit, die ich ja so mir gewünscht habe, nicht so gut umgehen.
Okay.
Mein Selbstbild war, dass ich ein Freigeist, Surfer-Spirit bin, die keine Grenzen, keine Regeln braucht, keine Arbeit, um auszukommen und einfach in den Tag hineinleben kann. Und die Realität war dann,
Dass das nicht so geht.
ich konnte nicht so gut ohne diese Struktur, ohne einen Grund aufzustehen.
Bruder, du brauchst einen Grund aufzustehen? Bruder, Europa Universalis hat einen neuen Patch rausgebracht, das ist ein Grund aufzustehen. Was ist los? Nimm den Controller in die Hand, let's go.
Hi.
Hallo.
Hallo, ich
What
bin
the
Jenny,
fuck?
ich bin wegen dem Probetag heute hier.
The fuck is happening?
Bitte einmal runterkommen. Der Schnuppertag ist da, Frau Weber.
Steffi, ne? Ja,
Genau, ich bin die Steffi.
Hi.
Du bist Jenny?
Genau, richtig.
Genau. Und willst heute einen Schnuppertag machen?
Genau.
Na dann.
Okay, super, danke schön.
Komm bitte.
Dann passt das schon. Danke, Steffi. Ich habe jetzt schon seit 2 Monaten nicht mehr in der Pflege gearbeitet. Und ich merke richtig, wie mir diese Arbeit hilft, mit den Menschen wieder in Kontakt zu kommen, zu helfen, für jemanden da sein. Ich vermisse
Danke
das.
für unzählige Stunden Unterhaltung mit Bildungsaspekt. Bitte mach weiter so.
Bildung. Dankeschön.
Wenn das heute hier klappt, könnte das mein erster Freelancer-Job sein. Hoffentlich lassen Sie sich auf mein Modell ein.
Also hier die Medikamente. Wir haben insgesamt 35 Bewohner. Tagesraum vorne, Tagesraum hinten. Dementsprechend sind auch die Tabletts aufgeteilt.
Okay, verstehe. Ich finde es immer so schlimm. Man hat so manchmal so einen Stress auf der Station. Und dann muss man so lange warten, bis die Tropfen rauskommen. Oh mein
Würde ich dir gleich übergeben? Ist das okay?
Ja, sehr gerne. Damit ich auch die Bewohner kennen.
Können wir gleich in Aktion treten?
Yes.
Okay.
Die scheint ja in der Pflege gut aufzugehen.
Frau Sonntag, einmal die Tablette. Machen Sie mal den Mund auf. Jawohl. Und jetzt was zu trinken. Nee, jetzt was zu trinken. Machen wir mal zu. Mhm. Oh. Schnuppern. Okay.
Das ist die Frage. Ist das ein wirkliches Ding? Ich finde es super gut, dass sich um die Leute gekümmert wird. Super gut. Es ist wichtig, dass das getan wird. Ist das ein würdevolles Leben?
Okay.
Das ist crazy. Es wirkt für mich immer so gefangen im Körper. Ne? Das ist so... Ne?
So, Ihre Tablette schon mal. So, Herr Strahl, die Tabletten für den Mittag.
Das muss ja nicht für alle sein, aber das scheint ja echt...
Und was zu trinken?
Und weil wir so länger leben können, sollen wir auch länger arbeiten. Das ist übrigens die Art von länger Leben, die sich der CDU bewusst ist. Ne? Also das ist dieses, Das ist das lange Leben, von dem hier geredet wird. Ich meine natürlich auf Basis der medizinischen Erfolge und Möglichkeiten der Verlängerung durch Medikamente und alles Mögliche in der Pflege leben die Leute länger.
Nee,
aber
das ist krampfvolles Erzwingen. Nee.
Und das ist das Ding. Wenn du in so einem Zustand bist, dann lebst du da. Also du existierst.
Kannst du nur noch arbeiten.
Ne? Das ist eine Hülle. Natürlich. Im besten Fall kümmert sich auch jemand dazu um dich.
Dir nur den Gnadenschuss geben.
Du genießt ja jetzt nicht die
letzten Atemzüge. Wie beim alten Rennpferd oder wie beim alten Hund. Warum
hier ist ja keiner, der
zwingen oder mit
ich bin mir sicher, die haben alle hart gearbeitet in ihrem Leben. Die haben bis zum Renteneintrittsalter alles gegeben. Und jetzt vergammeln die da. Und ich glaube, dass das auch ein Grund ist, warum viele Leute sagen, ich will auch was mitbekommen. Ich stelle mich einfach darauf ein, dass ich arbeite bis zum Ende und arbeite dann halt für mich ein wenig weniger, damit ich mehr von meinem Jetzt hier und Jetzt habe. Vergammeln ist schon ein böses Wort dafür. Ich verstehe das. Ich habe jetzt nur nicht gerade, also ich habe jetzt nicht den Eindruck, dass die da the time of the life haben. Wenn du verstehst. Mir geht es ja auch gar nicht darum, alle Leute sind. Das ist nicht der Fall. Das kann doch nicht so sein. Und nochmal, ich möchte dafür eintreten, diese Leute, die haben wahrscheinlich ihr ganzes Leben abgerackert. Ne? Bis in
da bin ich gnädiger und dafür, dass sie nicht ihr restliches Leben leiden müssen. Dann will ich lieber umbringen, die alten Leute.
Also es war sehr schön, wir haben ein sehr herzliches Miteinander gesehen unter den Mitarbeitern. Das hat mir sehr, sehr gut gefallen. Ich versuche ja gerade so ein selbstständiges Modell aufzubauen und gerade sozusagen...
Nee, da bin ich eher gnadiger als dieses aktuelle System, was wir da haben. Man merkt, die alten Leute sind nur noch eine leere Hülle von sich selbst, reden nicht mehr und sitzen nur rum, starren ins Nichts. Die kann man lieber erschießen und in den Sack packen, als weiter verqualen, sich fortleben zu lassen. Nur weil wir länger leben, heißt das nicht, dass der Rest des Lebens, den wir länger leben, dass der schön ist. In den meisten Teilen ist er sogar noch qualvoll. Daher nein, danke.
Kooperationspartner suche, die mich dann sozusagen bei sich...
Die müssen ja auch betreut werden. Das ist absolut Importante. Ne? Diese Leute müssen betreut werden, müssen gepflegt werden. Aus meiner Perspektive...
Many insects have a compulsion to follow the light, and humans are the same. Except we call that light
in einer Situation,
hope.
in der ich gepflegt werden muss, befinden. Das wird nie passieren. Dafür werden Vorkehrungen getroffen, dafür werden Entscheidungen gefällt. Das wird niemals passieren. Und das ist, das heißt nicht, dass und das ist wichtig, das heißt nicht, dass die Leute sich dort auch so entschieden hätten und da jetzt irgendwie gegen ihren Willen sind. Das heißt nur, dass wenn ich das sehe, ich diese Gedanken habe. Welche Vorkehrungen sind das? Gehirn rausnehmen, Kryokammer einfrieren und dann irgendwann hochladen.
Ich verstehe nicht, woran es liegt. Eigentlich passt ja alles, aber trotzdem wird es schon wieder nichts. Hatten meine Eltern recht? Ist es ein Fehler, mich selbstständig zu machen? Muss ich doch in die Festanstellung?
Ich persönlich habe das alles in meinen Plan inkludiert, eingeäschert zu werden und zu den ganzen Faschisten per Briefumschlag rausgeschickt.
Der Druck auf die jüngere Generation, wenn es darum geht, dass wir in Deutschland auch unser Wohlstandsniveau halten können. Der ist schon enorm.
Warte, was war das jetzt? Was hat sie gesagt?
Eigentlich passt ja alles, aber trotzdem wird es schon wieder nichts. Hatten meine Eltern recht? Ist es ein Fehler, mich selbstständig zu machen? Muss ich doch in die Festanstellung?
Ja, das ist ein Fehler. Wenn du nach einer Absage sowas sagst, dann ist es ein Fehler, dich selbstständig zu machen. Korrekt. Also, das ist das. Ich weiß natürlich nicht, ob das jetzt konstruiert ist in der Dokumentation, aber wenn man nach einer Absage solche Selbstzweifel hat, dann klar.
Der Druck auf die jüngere Generation, wenn es darum geht, dass wir in Deutschland auch unser Wohlstandsniveau halten können, das ist schon enorm. Und es zeichnet sich aber auch schon ab, dass ohne Migration, zusätzliche Migration in den deutschen Arbeitsmarkt, dass aufgrund der Unterschiede in den Größenverhältnissen von der jungen Generation allein eigentlich kaum machbar ist.
Ich finde, man merkt an dieser Dokumentation und an diesen Aussagen von diesen jungen Menschen, die sich in Arbeit befinden und da so ein bisschen umherschreiten, dass die sich nicht groß mit dem Wohlstand identifizieren und die das auch gar nicht verstehen, warum das immer gesagt wird.
Meine Eltern sind noch in Syrien und es gibt immer Teil von meinem Gehalt, was zu denen geschickt wird, weil die nicht arbeiten können.
كيفك؟ ايش حلاوه هاي؟ ايش الحلاوه هاي؟ الدنيا في شغل في احيانا ما في بس الحمد لله كله تمام.
Also in Syrien und viele andere Länder, da hat man keine Renteversicherung oder Wäsche und viele Leute, die versuchen halt, die arbeiten, bis sie sterben einfach, weil sonst sie können nichts essen oder so. Und das ist auch einer von den Gründen, warum ich auch meine Familie unterstütze. Aber das tut mir auf jeden Fall gut.
Ich erlebe es häufig in den Gesprächen mit Jugendlichen, die Migrationshintergrund haben, dass der familiäre Druck noch etwas höher ist.
Hey, not a bad haul.
Für die ganze Familie, das ist crazy, ja.
Existenzgedanke bei meinem beruflichen Streben ist viel, viel größer.
Ja.
Burn it down!
Ja. Marketing, willkommen. Boah, ich hab da voll die geile Idee. Oh.
Gerade fühlt sich alles hoffnungslos an. Erst die Absage von der Pflegeeinrichtung und jetzt klappt auch das Marketing-Ding nicht. Was mache ich denn jetzt?
Rise like smoke.
Wir hatten da voll den guten Pitch, aber der Kunde hatte dann doch kein Budget. Naja.
In 4 Wochen muss ich etwas in der Hand haben. Ich muss meine Miete zahlen können. Ich kann nicht zurück in die Festanstellung. Mental und körperlich schaffe ich das nicht mehr. Ja, ich bin Jennifer Weber. Ich hatte einen Termin heute hier zur Radiologie. Ja.
Frau Weber, bitte. Ja, gucken uns die Halswirbelsäule heute an, ne?
Mhm.
Was sind die Beschwerden am Nacken?
Ich habe immer so Blockaden im Nacken, Rücken, Nacken, Schulter, Hals.
Okay, strahlt es aber in die Schultern aus oder in die
Ja,
Arme?
strahlt in die Schulter aus, bis in die Arme, bis in den Finger.
Welche Finger?
Hier.
Okay, der hier, der dritte?
Ja.
Okay, super. Dann
Wird es ein bisschen laut?
Ist das ein Panikknopf?
Ja, den gibt es auch. Welchen?
Sowas wie sehr gerne.
Einmal einen Notfallklänger gibt es in die Hand. Dann wird es ziemlich laut. Es gibt einen Kopfhörer auf die Ohren, okay?
Hoffentlich bekomme ich jetzt endlich Klarheit. Hoffentlich wird mir geholfen.
Okay, der Befund geht zum Arzt. Vorne gibt es noch was mit. Und dann, soweit ist wir wieder anziehen.
Also hier sehen wir halt die Halswirbelsäule, ne, von der Seite. Und das Einzige, wo es vielleicht ein bisschen rausstülpt, ist hier. Und das ist so wenig. Und da sieht man schon, na gut, da ist eigentlich nichts.
Aber ich habe ganz schlimme Schmerzen.
Das glaube ich, genau.
Das muss ja
Also
irgendeine andere Ursache haben, oder nicht?
Stress. Stress, ja. Stress.
Also, ich habe starke Schmerzen.
Ja, völlig klar.
Ich muss jeden Tag richtig viel Ibo nehmen und so.
Glaube ich,
und
genau.
Schmerzsalben.
Aber haben Sie denn schon Physiotherapie?
Ja.
Und deswegen würde ich noch mal den Orthopäden fragen, wie man dann am besten vorgeht. Der kriegt ja den Befund, ne? Und dann wird er mit Ihnen ein Therapiekonzept überlegen.
Mega unbefriedigend.
Irgendwann auf der Reise in Australien habe ich entschieden, dass ich nicht 4 Monate bleiben werde, sondern nur 3. Und dann bin ich ziemlich direkt nach Spanien gereist, um dort in einem Surfcamp als Surflehrerin zu arbeiten. Unterrichten macht super viel Spaß, macht sehr viel Freude und kostet aber unglaublich viel soziale Energie. Surfen ist ein Gefahrensport, man kann sich auch schwer verletzen. Ich habe die Verantwortung für die Sicherheit sehr deutlich gespürt. Vor allem bei dem Kinderkurs, den ich hatte. Da hatte ich Sorge, dass ein Kind von einem Brett getroffen wird oder ins Meer rausgezogen wird.
Oder Kinder verletzen sich schon, wenn sie nur existieren. Die auf ein Surfbrett zu stellen und irgendwie ins Meer zu werfen? Nope. Nope.
Ich hatte zwar Kollegen um mich rum und ich hatte viele Gäste um mich rum, aber meine Freundinnen haben mir gefehlt. Ein Stück weit habe ich mich einsam gefühlt, ja.
Nope.
Es hat sich nicht angefühlt wie der Traum, von dem ich dachte, dass es sein würde. Während der Zeit habe ich viel über mich gelernt und eins dieser Dinge war, dass ich Struktur.
Alter, mein Sohn verletzt sich, wenn er da sitzt und rumkrabbelt. Der braucht da nichts Externes für. Naja gut, der ist nicht mal 1. Den wirst du jetzt nicht auf ein Surfbrett setzen und sagen, trainieren Sie den Mann.
Ich mag, dass ich mein Umfeld um mich haben möchte und dass ich gerne als Ingenieurin arbeite, dass ich gerne im Kopf arbeite.
Mehr Lebenszufriedenheit. Das ist das, wonach wir eigentlich alle streben.
Wir haben 2 Kinder und meine Erfahrungen sind, dass die echt robust sind. Aber das klingt so, als hättest du die schon mal mit dem Ball abgeworfen. Also was hält denn der eigentlich aus?
Tatsächlich, wenn wir mal drauf gucken, was macht Jobzufriedenheit aus? In Bezug auf die ganze Lebenszufriedenheit sagt die Forschung, es sind 2-3%. Und gleichzeitig gibt eine Sache uns viel mehr Lebenszufriedenheit auch im Job. Wir Sinn erfahren in dem, was wir tun.
Das kann man auch mal arbeiten, manchmal 2 Stunden, manchmal 20 Stunden. Ich habe sogar meinen Rekord gemacht mit 40 Stunden in einem Stück. Ich habe immer nebenbei gearbeitet und auch am Wochenende ein bisschen gekellnert. Wenn man einfach zu viel macht, ohne Pause zu haben, irgendwann hat man diesen Fokus verloren und die Körper sagt, okay, stopp. Und der Kopf sagt auch, stopp, es geht nicht so. Ich war sehr überfordert. Ich habe gezittert, mein ganzer Körper hat gezittert. Ich war so nicht mehr bewusst kurz und dann komme ich wieder und dann bin ich unbewusst und das war halt, mein ganzer Körper hat anderes funktioniert. Er hat
habe gestern nach 8 Jahren mein Homeoffice Callcenter Bullshit-Job hingeworfen, gehe mit 40 wieder als Azubi ins Handwerk. Cheers. Ey, nice.
so wie eine Warnung die ganze Zeit gegeben.
Handwerk ist eh geil. Handwerk ist eh geil.
Mein Körper hat irgendwann gesagt, okay, stopp, du gehst kurz ins Krankenhaus, weil dir geht's nicht gut so. Ich von dem Krankenhaus rausgekommen bin, ich war so, boah, okay, so viele Sorgen und so viel getan und so viel gemacht und das hat eigentlich meinen Körper nicht gut angetan. Und das war schon der Punkt, wo ich gesagt habe, okay, direkt, es reicht. Und ich dachte mir, okay, vielleicht soll ich meine Zeit auf mich investieren und auf meinen...
Viele sagen, es ist geil, aber niemand will es machen. Ich glaube nicht, dass niemand das machen will. Ich glaube, es machen schon einige und man spürt es nur nicht so sehr, weil da so viel Verzögerung dazwischen ist. Der große, also das Geile am Handwerk ist einfach, natürlich vom Gewerk auch, vom Gewerk. Aber das Geile am Handwerk ist, dass du was fertig machst. Also wenn du in so einem Office-Job bist und du arbeitest jeden Tag die gleiche Excel-Tabelle durch und du wirst nie fertig, weil immer dasselbe Problem besteht, dann hast du nicht dann hast du kein Fortschrittsgefühl. Aber im Handwerk, in welchem Handwerk auch immer, hast du vielleicht die Aufgabe, etwas zu bauen, etwas zu reparieren, etwas zu erschaffen und du hast dann tatsächlich so eine Art Erfolg, sondern du hast am Ende etwas, wo du davor stehst und sagst, das ist ein abgeschlossenes Projekt. Und jetzt wird es sicherlich in dem ganzen Kram nochmal ähnliche Projekte geben, aber das ist ein abgeschlossenes Projekt. Ich glaube, das macht was mit deinem Kopf. Ich glaube, das macht was mit deinem Kopf. Ich glaube, das ist ein gutes Gefühl.
Selbstständigkeit auf meine eigene Arbeit investieren.
Also wir sehen ja auf jeden Fall anhand von Studien, zum Beispiel der Jugend in Deutschland, Trendstudie, dass junge Menschen immer mehr unter Druck stehen. Wenn junge Menschen nicht gesund sind und sich zu stark unter Druck gesetzt fühlen, wie zum Beispiel Majid, der ja sehr, sehr viel geleistet hat, dann kollabiert dadurch langfristig eben unser Sozialsystem in Deutschland, unsere Wirtschaft in Deutschland. Das heißt, die Gesundheit von jungen Menschen ist etwas, was es zu schützen gilt.
No, my sword!
Und wieder Bewerbungen schreiben. Manchmal hinterfrage ich meine Entscheidungen. Wie wäre wohl mein Leben verlaufen, wenn ich mein Abi durchgezogen hätte? Wenn ich nicht einmal abgebrochen hätte? Vielleicht hätte ich dann weniger finanzielle Sorgen und mehr Anerkennung. Ich fühle mich wie eine Versagerin.
Stay fühle ich komplett. Ich als Systemadministrator bin wenn ich perfekt mache, unsichtbar. Wenn ich alles richtig mache, sieht meine Arbeit niemand. True.
Ich hatte, während ich in Spanien war, entschieden, dass ich erstmal wieder zurück nach Hause gehen werde, zurück nach Deutschland und mich von Deutschland aus bewerben werde. Genau weil ich dieses Privileg hatte, weil ich diese Erfahrung machen konnte, hatte ich das Gefühl, okay, jetzt ist es wieder Zeit.
Tatsächlich hatte ich neben den Projekten, die ich so mache, hatte ich das letztens auch einfach, hatte ich das in einem Hobbyprojekt, als ich Homelabing angefangen habe. Als ich angefangen habe, so ein Homelab zu bauen und so Home Assistant zu installieren und dann irgendwie anwendungsgesteuerte Sachen zu machen und dann irgendwie runterzugehen und auf irgendwelche Tablets einzurichten und da irgendwie die Lichtersteuerung zum Beispiel schon lustig gewesen. Und dann überlegt, okay, jetzt kann ich mir Proxmox installieren, dann kann ich alles in der VMware laden und so. Let's go. Let's go!
Zurückzugehen und zu arbeiten, um meinen Beitrag zu leisten. Und ich hatte das Gefühl, als Ingenieurin kann ich mich dafür entscheiden, etwas zu tun, in dem ich Sinn sehe, sei es Forschung, sei es Medizintechnik, einen Mehrwert im Sinne von Umweltschutz.
jetzt geht mein Arbeitsvertrag zu Ende und deswegen ist eine gute Chance, um selbstständig zu werden. Und das versuche ich jetzt hart zu machen und ich habe Bock drauf. Wenn ich das jetzt nicht mache, wann soll ich das machen? Und das ist wirklich die Frage, wo die ganze Zeit in meinem Kopf ist. Wann soll ich dann machen? Es gibt nicht später, entweder jetzt oder halt vielleicht gar nicht.
Burn it down! This! You can't run!
Fulfill our pact!
Miscalculated. You need to hurry up!
Yeah!
Leider.
Yeah!
Und zwar...
This was well done!
Das ist gerade mein erster
Rain outlines your
You need to
fate.
hurry up!
Freelancer-Job.
An unfortunate fault!
Ich traue mich gar nicht, mich richtig zu freuen.
Ja, das ist, also... Das Ding ist...
Treasure hunting.
Ist cool.
Aber wie schön wäre das? Meine eigene Chefin zu sein, wertgeschätzt werden, auf Augenhöhe zu arbeiten. Und jetzt kann ich mich endlich auch auf kreative Dinge konzentrieren. Meinen Rücken hinbekommen. Witze schreiben und an meinem Traum arbeiten. Mehr auf der Bühne zu stehen.
Also das ist wirklich ein kreatives Projekt von jemandem hier. Ne? Die Musik und so, da hat jemand einfach gesagt, ich kann machen, was ich will, ja? Ja, mach mal. Okay. Das ist crazy. Das ist wirklich crazy.
Ich wollte einen Job mit Sinn. Und ich habe eine Stelle als Ingenieurin in Deutschland bekommen und angenommen. An meinem aktuellen Job gefällt mir, dass es im Bereich der Energiewende ist und ich damit einen großen Sinn in meiner Arbeit sehe und mir das Freude macht. Ich hatte dieses Selbstbild von dem Surfer Girl und habe festgestellt, dass mir andere Dinge auch wichtig sind. Dass mir auch mein Job als Ingenieurin wichtig ist. Das war eine schwierige Erkenntnis für mich, weil ich mir dann eingestehen musste, ja, okay, ich bin auch spießig.
Alle machen, was sie machen, keiner denkt an Konsequenzen.
Mama besucht mich das erste Mal. Das erste Mal sieht sie mein Leben in Berlin. Wir nehmen uns Zeit für uns. Und ich kann sie updaten,
Sure.
was bei mir passiert ist. Wie wird sie reagieren? Wird sie meine Entscheidung verstehen?
Sieht aus, als wären wir hier richtig.
Ja, wenn du wüsstest, was ich wüsste, wenn ich wüsste, wann es endet. Entlang der Küste brechen Wellen, gleich hier vorne musst du wenden. Gerade ist mir kalt, gerade ist es windig. Ja, wenn du wüsstest, was ich wüsste, wenn ich wüsste, wann es endet.
Also Töpferkurs wäre jetzt auch nichts meins, muss ich sagen. Aber ich meine, you do you, you do you.
In meinen Träumen fallen Menschen hohe Dächer, die Finanzen.
Aber wie kamst du eigentlich darauf, dass wir...
Guck mal, wir hatten in der Schule so eine Fach Basteln, ne? Mit Knete hatte ich sehr tolle Matryoshka gemacht. Und dann, wo ich das gesehen habe, diese Drehscheibe, ich dachte, das möchte ich irgendwann machen.
Und ich hatte den Traum, irgendwann mit dir durchs Kreuz...
Instead of confining themselves to the heavens, God should broaden their horizons in the world below.
Ach, was zum Fick meinst du jetzt schon wieder? Funktioniert nicht. Internet ist im Moment nicht verfügbar. Fuck off, der ist verfügbar.
My entitled friend breaks my phone, but then refuses to do anything to try and repair it or replace it. So I decided to get some revenge by literally giving him a taste of his own medicine by breaking his phone as well, sending him into a rage that I honestly find incredibly ironic. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk or not, and I really just need to know what to do next. Here's how it happened. So I've been friends with Mark for around 6 years now. We met through school and have stayed close ever since then. Our friendship has always involved joking around, teasing, and messing around with each other just a little bit, but we've never had a serious conflict like this before. Last weekend, I was hanging out at Mark's place with a few mutual friends. We were drinking and talking and just having a normal night. Well, at some point, Mark picked up my phone from the table as some kind of joke and started pretending to toss it in the air. I immediately told him to stop and said I didn't find it funny. I asked him multiple times to put it down because my phone is new and I rely on it a lot. But he just laughed and said I was being dramatic and kept doing it anyways. Then out of nowhere, he actually dropped it. The phone hit the floor's screen first and shattered. It wouldn't even turn on afterwards. Suddenly, everybody went silent and I just stood there in shock. Mark then said that it was an accident and told me to calm down because it's just a phone. He didn't even apologize right away and didn't offer to pay for repairs or a replacement. I was so upset because I can't easily afford a new phone and I need it for work and everyday communication. Now, I tried to talk to him about it later that night, but he kept brushing it off and changing the subject, and it really felt like he didn't take my feelings seriously at all. Eventually, the situation turned into an argument. I was still angry and felt completely dismissed, and in a moment of frustration, I grabbed Mark's phone off the table and I threw it on the floor, the same way mine had already been broken. Well, his phone shattered too, and he completely lost it. He started yelling and said I crossed a line and acted out of pure spite. He told me I was being immature and said that I owed him a new phone immediately. What really bothers me is that he still insists that my phone breaking was no big deal, and yet he expects full responsibility from me for his. Some of our friends say that I shouldn't have retaliated and that I made the situation worse, but others say that Mark deserved it since he ignored my boundaries and didn't take responsibility when he broke my phone first. And now my friend group is very tense, and Mark and I are definitely not speaking to each other. I feel bad about the way I reacted, but I also feel like I was pushed to that point for being disrespected and ignored. So seriously, am I the jerk for breaking his phone after he literally broke mine and refused to take responsibility for it? What should I do? Okay, I find this hilarious because, man, Mark definitely changed his tune pretty quickly, didn't he? At first he was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, it's just a phone, calm down. But the second that crap happens to him, suddenly he wants a replacement. Suddenly he's pissed off and he's screaming at everybody. You did that out of spite, I can't believe you did that. And I just want to be like, yeah, I absolutely did it out of spite, you moron. You threw my phone on the ground and you broke it and you refused to take responsibility for it. So with that in mind, I don't really think you're the jerk here. If anything, this is just karma enacting its revenge on this guy. Because if he had just been more agreeable and said, oh yeah, I'll replace your phone, then all of this could have been avoided. And while I'm not saying that what you did is right, like I do think you probably could have handled this wrong, at the end of the day, I still completely understand where you're coming from. Because Mark was being a jerk, and I don't blame you for giving him a taste of his own medicine. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My grandfather tried to give away the family house, the same one that he literally never built or had anything to do with, but instead manipulated pretty much everybody in the family to make sure that he could give this off to his new wife. And it's honestly been a headache ever since he passed away, and I simply don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so yesterday, to start things off, I got a phone call that perfectly summarizes exactly what's going on. A woman I had never personally spoken to before called me up and asked if she could pay 250,000 euros instead of 320,000 euros. She said this calmly and politely, like she was negotiating a discount. And this woman is my grandfather's second wife. Now, for a bit of background, the house at the center of this story was not built or financed by my grandfather. It originally belonged to my great-grandparents on my grandmother's side. They built it themselves and paid for it entirely. It was a multi-family house with 3 apartments created through decades of work. And while they were alive, they made one thing very clear. They wanted the house to stay in the family. Now, my great-grandmother lived in one of the apartments, while my grandparents lived directly in the apartment above her. They were physically close and there was daily proximity. Like, this was not a distant family arrangement. My parents divorced when I was 1 year old, but despite that, my sister and I spent a lot of time with my great-grandmother. She was the kindest person I ever knew. When she passed away, I was 8 years old and my sister was 15, and we were old enough for real relationships to exist. Whenever my great-grandmother needed some rest, we were sent upstairs to my grandparents, but in reality, that only worked on paper. About 85% of the time, I was sent back downstairs almost immediately, while my my sister was placed in front of the television. We were not welcomed, instead we were just managed. The moment my great-grandmother died, my paternal grandparents cut off all contact with us, and they did this immediately. No explanation, no gradual distancing, just total and absolute silence. My grandfather lived rent-free his entire adult life in that house. He never built it, he never financed it, he never passed anything forward. He cheated on my grandmother constantly, worked as a taxi driver, spent his time in a small garden outside the city, and treated his own family like an inconvenience. He hated his own son, my father. A few years before his death, after my grandmother had already passed away, my grandfather married a Ukrainian refugee who was 40 years younger than him and had 4 children. And then came his plan, which really started to rock the boat. He officially restructured the house from 3 apartments into 2, gifted one part to his new wife, and sold the other part to her as well. The intention was obvious, to transfer the entire property to her and make sure his own son received nothing. He even reestablished contact with my father for exactly one reason, to pressure him into giving up his remaining 6% share of the house. Once that was done, he disappeared again. No relationship, no reconciliation, absolutely nothing. He knew that he was dying. A notary was brought to his hospital bed, and he still refused to make peace with his only living son. Well, shortly after my grandfather passed away, which was 3 years ago, my father sued his stepmother over the house, and thankfully he had taken out legal insurance years earlier, so the case did not cost us much financially. And well, my father then died 1 year ago, but what he didn't account for were his legal mistakes. Because of those mistakes, his wife simply cannot keep the house. Legally, she now has to pay out roughly half of the property's value over to us, and that amount is 3,200 euros. Which brings me back to yesterday. She called me, our first real conversation ever, and she asked if she could maybe just pay 250,000 euros instead. When I didn't immediately agree, she explained that she doesn't know how she's supposed to finance this at all. She said the legal fees are growing over her head, that the lawyers alone are draining what little money she has left, and that she simply doesn't have the funds. She told me she also has to think about her children and their future, how difficult this situation is for her. And yes, I understand that it's stressful for her, like I understand her fear, but what I cannot understand is the entitlement behind it. Her late husband lived rent-free his entire life in a house he did not build. He broke contact with his only 2 grandchildren the moment his mother-in-law passed away. He deliberately tried to rewrite an inheritance to benefit his much younger wife and her children while cutting out his only son and bloodline. And now, after all of that, the expectation seems to be that we should absorb the financial consequences of his choices, all because the situation has become inconvenient. I didn't create this legal mess, and my family didn't either. This is the result of a man who believed he could take everything, leave nothing behind, and never be held accountable at all. I'm so glad he didn't get his will. This guy was such a horrible, selfish person. And here's another reason why I cannot describe my grandfather as anything other than deeply disturbed. He crossed boundaries again and again, and he mistreated my sister inappropriately, if you know what I mean. He had multiple attempts to pursue my mother, repeatedly tried to get close to her against her will, and even attempted to gain access to the bathroom while she was showering. When my father was a child, he almost mistreated me as well. Thankfully, nothing worse happened because my grandmother came home in time. Even when I tried to connect with him, he didn't have any interest and never called back. The only time my grandfather ever tried to contact me directly was when he wanted something. He reached out because he wanted my mother to move into his house and take care of his first wife, the same woman who had always hated my mother. He framed it as a practical arrangement and even suggested that afterwards, they could sit down on a terrace and drink wine. Early in his life, his own sister and his own mother wanted no contact with him and eventually cut him out of their lives. But apparently, that entitlement didn't die with him, because this situation is going to be a headache probably for the rest of my life. Oh man, your grandfather sucks. He definitely left a mess before he passed away. I'm really sorry you're dealing with this, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would not give that lady a discount for a second. If anything, it's just the principle of the matter. This guy went out of his way to basically destroy his family home and be like, oh, I'm gonna get all of it, while also pretty much leaving you guys with nothing. Like, that really sucks. That's unfair for you and pretty much everyone in your family. So hopefully everybody can come to their senses and pay you the money that you're owed, because the state your grandfather left all of this in is completely ridiculous and absolutely unfair. Would I be the jerk for keeping the money from a ticket sale after my wife's friend backs out of going with us to a concert? Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so my wife, her friend, and I plan to go to a concert this past weekend, and for the sake of the story, I'll call her friend Julie. A few months ago, I bought 3 tickets all together, and Julie paid us back in cash for her ticket. Well, the day before the concert, Julie suddenly backed out, and by that point, I'd already picked up the physical tickets. At first, we told Julie Julie that she could still come pick up her ticket if she wanted to sell it or do something with it, but you know what? She didn't. She made no effort to retrieve it whatsoever. We even tried to find a buyer for her ourselves, but nothing worked out right away. Then after that, Julie told us to just keep the ticket or to throw it away. Now, I thought tossing it was a complete waste, so I decided to find a buyer myself and just sell it. I ended up doing the coordination, the messaging, and the logistics to make the sale happen. Now, here's where the conflict really kicks in. I think that I should keep the money from the sale because Julie abandoned the ticket and explicitly said to keep it or throw it away, and she made zero effort to handle it. But my wife thinks that keeping that money makes me the jerk and that I should give Julie the money, or at least offer it to her in the first place. So would I be the jerk if I kept the money? Because I honestly think I deserve it. Okay, in my opinion, the second Julie said, hey, keep the ticket or just throw it away, I don't want it. At that point, you have a free pass to do whatever you want. So selling it or throwing it away or lighting it on fire or whatever is your prerogative. And guess what? Selling it means that you get all the money. None of that money belongs to Julie because she literally gave it up to you guys. She didn't want to sell it herself and you guys were trying to figure it out, but she was too lazy to do anything. So no, you would not be the jerk. I don't think you would be the jerk at all for keeping that money, especially if she gave you a free pass and said that you can do whatever you want. Am I the jerk for insisting my roommate remove a keyed lock they installed on the inside of their bedroom door simply because in case of an emergency, she would need a key just to exit her room, which really does violate so many safety issues, it's not even funny. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm currently renting a 2-bedroom and my roommate is anxious about privacy. While I was at work, she installed a deadbolt that needs a key from the inside. Well, I told her that's not allowed in our lease, and it's a safety violation because you should not be hunting for a key to exit quickly. But she said that doing that makes her feel secure. Well, my major point here is that safety is concerned, but she got pissed off as if I'm just asking to do it just to harm her. I then suggested a thumb turn lock or like a keypad that wouldn't get in the way, but she still refused. So I decided to escalate by telling the landlord, and the landlord gave her a lecture about safety. She doesn't understand that egress requirements exist so that people can leave quickly without tools. And that's not about feelings, it's literally a safety concern. There are plenty of secure, compliant options. Thumb turns, keypads, door bars that don't trap someone behind a key. I think she's in a refusal state because I'm not trying to be mean with her, and simply because my concern has actual sense to it. It's literally the minimum for shared safety and lease compliance. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Like, I honestly don't want to lose my lease and I don't want to get in trouble because of her stupid actions. What should I do? Okay, dude, your roommate is an idiot. That is a massive fire hazard. Like, if she wants to have some kind of like privacy, then literally anything besides what she has would make way more sense. You're telling me she needs a key to exit her room? That is backwards. I'm pretty sure you would want that on the other side. A thumb turn lock would be way more reasonable here. So no, you are not the jerk. This literally is a fire safety issue. And the fact that she's fighting you on that is just crazy. She's putting herself in danger for literally no reason. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover my coworker's shift after he literally was the reason I got sick? Here's what happened. Okay, so I work in a small office where we are constantly short-staffed. One of my coworkers is notorious for blasting the air conditioning year-round, even in the winter, despite multiple people asking him to stop because it makes them sick. And of course, management hasn't really enforced any rules about it. Well, last week he turned the air conditioning on full blast during a cold snap, and I ended up getting really sick with a fever and a sore throat. Now, here's the issue at hand. While I was out sick, he asked me if I could cover his shift this weekend because he really needs a break and has plans that he doesn't want to cancel. Well, when he asked me this, I said no, and I pointed out that I wouldn't even be sick if he hadn't cranked up the air conditioning after everyone asked him not to. He then got defensive and said I was being petty and that getting sick isn't his fault. So seriously, am I the jerk for saying no? Because honestly, this guy really pisses me off. Dude, there is no way in the world you would be the jerk. First of all, why is this guy having control over the air conditioning year-round? Shouldn't someone else be in charge of that, like building management or something like that? It shouldn't fall on just one person to manage it, right? Like, if anything, management is absolutely to blame for you getting sick. They're not enforcing the rules, which gives this idiot more leverage to be like, okay, let's turn the air conditioning on. Who cares if it's winter outside? Let's all get sick. So with that in mind, yeah, he's absolutely to blame for you getting sick. So no, you're not the jerk for shutting him down and saying no, because if he's gonna treat his coworkers like crap, he cannot expect them to come to bat for him when he needs some kind of favor. Am I the jerk for telling my family owing me money that they should not be going on vacation if they literally are in such dire straits financially? Because after I paid them 8,000 euros about 2 years ago, I'm honestly amazed that they would go on holiday and brag about it online. Because right now I'm very pissed off and I don't know what to do to get my money back. Here's how it all started. To start things out, 2 years ago I got a big income. My aunt and uncle also have a restaurant and it's going pretty bad. Well, they approached me and asked me if I could give them 8,000 euros and they said they will pay me back when they manage to sell the restaurant. Fast forward to 2 years later and the restaurant is still there. And every time I hear from them, it's always about how they're in a terrible situation. Then a week ago, I scrolled on Facebook and I saw them on holiday in Ibiza. For people owing me 8,000 euros and apparently in big trouble, I found it quite curious that they could afford to go to a place like that. So I messaged them asking how it's going. And they respond back by saying, "Oh, it's great. It's so nice to be on holiday after struggling for years." And that's great and all, but I'm like, okay, well, you owe me money. And I tell them that things don't seem that bad if they can go to Ibiza. They then tell me they saved money for a year to get a vacation, and it's the first one they've had in years. And look, I get it, but I also think about their restaurant and I'm like, okay, well, you owe me money. They also owe a crap ton of money to the state, and at some point they will just buy your restaurant for nothing, leaving you with no money at all and nothing to pay me back with. I said to them, this is just stupid to use all your savings on a vacation when you should put it in your restaurant. So I said all that and they just didn't take it well at all. They tell me that I have absolutely no business telling them what to do with their own money. I gave them money to the restaurant, and this is apparently not from the restaurant. This is from their personal account. But for me, it doesn't make any difference at all. The two are linked together. You should be using your personal savings into your struggling restaurant. They then say that I'm the jerk for making it weird when it's family, that they babysat me when I was 2 years old, and now I dare tell them what to do with their money. I then tell them they should be ashamed of needing money from a kid that they babysat. It goes on and becomes a really big fight, and then I say, okay, I expect my money back in the coming year. If they can go to Ibiza, clearly they're not starving, and they could deal with selling the restaurant now despite the debts. They say that I'm a complete disappointment and a cheap jerk. So seriously, am I? It's also important to note that there were no legal papers when I gave them those 8,000 euros. I was 21 years old, and I just thought, why not? I can help out, and I don't need the money right now. I deeply regret doing it, don't get me wrong, but it is what it is. I don't think I can do anything legally, even if we did agree it was a loan back then. What should I do? Okay, first off, hopefully this is a lesson that you will never repeat in the future, because holy crap, what do you mean you gave them 8,000 euros without anything in writing? That's a lot of money, dude. I don't care who you are. I could not drop 8,000 euros right now, or anything close to that in American dollars, and still walk around and be like, oh yeah, they'll pay me back in good faith, because then stuff like this happens. You fast forward and you see the people you loaned the money to are doing just fine going on a holiday. Meanwhile, you're sitting there with 8,000 less dollars in your bank account, wondering what the crap just happened. So no, you're not the jerk for reminding them that they owe you money, that they literally took advantage of the 21-year-old version of yourself just to get some money out of you for their supposed struggling restaurant, which I'm convinced is just a manipulation tactic they use to get money out of the family. But truly, I don't think you're ever getting that money back. I think you're kind of like up a creek without a paddle, because if they give it back at this point, especially after this argument, it honestly will be a miracle. Am I the jerk for not covering my coworker's shift, even though she said it was an emergency, which I later found out to be a complete lie? Because right now, she is really making me feel guilty and is practically turning my coworkers against me because of this, and I really just don't know what to do in return. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so I work part-time at a restaurant while also going to school. It's already kind of a lot balancing work and classes, but I make it work somehow. I usually work weekends and I almost never call in sick or ask for any days off. Last week, I finally had a Saturday free, and we're talking like actually free. No work, no school, literally nothing. I even told my manager earlier in the week that I wasn't available just in case, and he said it was fine. Well, Friday night, one of my coworkers texted me asking if I can cover her shift on Saturday. I then asked her why, and she just says that she has an emergency and really needs someone. I then asked if it was like a family or medical, but like not asking any details, and she just responded by saying that it was personal stuff. Well, I then told her I'm sorry, but I couldn't because I already made plans, and I really needed the day off. But she kept pushing me and saying that she never gets help from anyone, and that if I don't cover, she might get in trouble. Well, when she said that, that, I felt kind of bad, but even still, I said no. Then Saturday morning, I see her Instagram story. She's at a brunch with friends, like full outfits, mimosas, smiling, all of that. Meanwhile, another coworker texts me saying that she's mad at me and telling people that I don't help anyone out. Later that day, she texts me again saying that I embarrassed her and that just because she didn't tell me her emergency doesn't mean it wasn't real. I didn't reply because I didn't want to start drama and I was already so annoyed. And now at work, some coworkers are being cold and one of them said, "Oh, you could have just helped her out." And I feel like I'm being guilted for having boundaries, but also I don't know if I was too harsh about it. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I don't know what to do. Okay, if I was in your shoes, I would print off pretty much everything from her Instagram story and I would bring it into work and I'd be like, "Oh, you mean this emergency?" And I would print off those pictures and show her like smiling and laughing and drinking mimosas and then essentially hold her feet to the fire and be like, "Yeah, you didn't have an emergency, idiot. You literally lied to me and the rest of my coworkers and somehow tried to blame it on me." And that's not okay in my opinion. Because guess what? This isn't okay. If you don't want to cover for someone, then congratulations, you don't have to do it. Someone else can cover because you're not the only other person that works there. So no, you're not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. Your coworker clearly lied about having some kind of emergency and is now basically lying to you and trying to make it seem like you're the one with the problem instead of her. Which if I was in your shoes, I would be correcting that publicly so fast because absolutely nobody at work has the right to talk to you like that regardless of the circumstances. My entitled sister-in-law demands that we don't post any of our wedding photos online, as she said she was unhappy with the way she looked and that she felt she looked like a fat pig. So, as a solution, I cropped her out of all of our wedding photos so that we could still post about our wedding while also keeping my sister-in-law out of the picture. But now, as a result, she's freaking out on us, claiming that we're trying to erase her from the memory of our wedding. And with everybody slowly turning against me and my wife, I'm now left wondering if I might be the jerk in the situation. Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I recently got married and it was amazing. The wedding was set at a riverside farm, and so we had photo shoots outside on the fields before the ceremony. We started taking photos at around noon, and my sister-in-law was one of the bridesmaids. My sister-in-law has always been a negative person ever since I met her and is always trying to make small judgmental comments, while my wife is an incredibly kind person. They have very different personalities, so I never questioned why they weren't close and assumed that my sister-in-law was included in her group of bridesmaids to appease my wife's parents. Because my sister-in-law and my wife have never been very close, she was at the end of the line of bridesmaids and usually was at the edges of group photos. While taking the photos, my sister-in-law was the only one complaining about things like the sunny weather and how her dress was absorbing the heat. I don't know much about dresses, but it was maybe about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Most people in the photo shoot group ignored her comments, and it wasn't an issue for the rest of the day. We ended up getting the photos of both the shoot and the ceremony from the photographer 3 weeks after the wedding. We promptly sent the photos to the people in the photo shoot and told them that we planned on using the photos on social media. Now, most people thanked us for the photos, but my sister-in-law called my wife and was very angry, yelling that she looked like a fat pig in every photo and demanded that we not use any of the photos with her in them. For context, my sister-in-law is bigger than my wife, but not to an extreme extent. She doesn't look unhealthy, and I've never heard her have any body issues before, but admittedly, I wouldn't know much about it. In the wedding photos, she doesn't really look any different from her normal self. My wife tried to reason with her, saying she looks just as pretty as everyone else, but my sister-in-law did not want to hear it. She reiterated that if we used any photo of her on social media, that she would never speak to us again and would put us on blast. My wife was really hurt by her sister's outburst, and I was very bothered that she thought she could tell us what to do with our special moment. Well, this is where I might be the jerk in this situation. I decided that if she had that much of a problem with this, then she didn't need to be in any of the photos. So I cropped her out and I posted those versions to social media. I thought it would be fine, and it was easy since she was at the edge anyways. Well, after posting, she then called me even angrier than before and accused me of trying to erase her from the memory of the wedding. I told her I only did it to accommodate her wishes while also getting to use my own wedding photos. My sister-in-law hasn't talked to us in a week, and my wife's parents are mad at us for upsetting my sister-in-law. While my wife is on my side, she thinks that I could have been more mature about it. But I don't think I did anything wrong, and I accommodated her already unreasonable request. So am I the jerk for cropping her out of my wedding photos? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all, because I would have done the exact same thing. If she doesn't like the photos and she thinks she looks like a fat pig, as she put it, then cropping her out of your photos, in my opinion, is the only solution. For you to be denied the right to post your own wedding photos on social media or put them wherever you want all because of your sister-in-law acting like a very selfish individual, in my opinion, is incredibly selfish and unbelievably toxic. She's trying to control your wedding photos and is like, oh wow, if you post these, I will never talk to you again. So in my opinion, your solution makes total sense. She really thinks that she looks bad in these photos, then fine, I'll just crop you out and post them without you in it. But it's so convenient that because you did that, she then fires back and says, you're trying to erase me from the memory of the wedding. But it's like, hang on, which one is it? If you're going to be offended that you're in the wedding photos and start demanding that none of this get posted, then you have no right to get upset when someone posts it without you in it. Like, this idiot wants to try and play both sides of the fence and still get offended no matter what you do. Like, that is so selfish in my opinion, especially when it comes to your photos of your wedding day. So in my opinion, I think you are well within your right to do whatever you want with those photos. And it's so funny to me that the parents are stepping in and being like, wow, why did you upset your sister-in-law? Because it's proof right there that they would rather dance around the issue and try to avoid approaching the sister-in-law instead of calling her out on her awful behavior, because the way she's acting is completely inappropriate. And I think you're well within your right to edit her out. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting by saying that my stepson owes me an apology for the way he treated me and my wife? Because right now, my wife is requesting that I be the bigger person and just forgive him.
The
But at
rewards
this
of an
point,
adventure
I'm still
worth
so
remembering.
angry at the way he treated us that I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my stepson, who's 20 years old, graduated high school just over a year ago. February of last year, my wife and I helped him get a loan for a truck, which was about $7,000. At the end of May or early June, he packs his things and moves out to live with his girlfriend, with whom he knows we are not overly fond of. And this is all without ever telling us that he's leaving, and we find out he's gone when we both get home from work. He then refuses to return any phone calls at any time, because apparently he's too busy, but somehow will
Is it
immediately
too much to
respond to
carry?
text messages
Here,
almost every
let me help.
time. I try to call him when I realize that he hasn't just taken his things, but some of mine as well. But when I do, I get told that he can't talk as he's too busy, but then spends the next 2 hours immediately responding to what
Watch
could
out!
have been handled in a 5-minute phone call. By this point,
Show no
I'm
mercy!
angry, so I said, fine, you will leave me long before I leave you.
Leave.
I decided to stop getting in contact. And for the record, I've been with his mom for 8 years, so I've been in his life. At the end of last July, my aunt passed from cancer, but even then, I still did not get a single word from the boy. Now, my dad and I were very close. My stepson knows this and knows my father very well. And at the end of November, my dad passed away and left everything to me. But once again, there is still radio silence. 2 weeks to the day after my dad passes, my last remaining aunt passes away with cancer, and I still don't hear anything from them. At the end of this last May, my stepdaughter is graduating from the 8th grade, and
Something
my
to add to
father-in-law
my
is coming
collection.
into town from 4 states away. The boy and his girlfriend show up at my dad's house while I'm at work because somehow they know we've been modeling and planning to move in there. So he can't claim ignorance to dad passing away because they literally knew to look for us. The neighbors call me and they let me know that they are at the house.
Burn it down!
So I call and I tell them that they can leave now or I can have them arrested for trespassing. But they are not to be there if I or my wife are not there. So apparently they're here for the graduation and it's really tense. But things go fairly smoothly. And after graduation, they go back to their place maybe 3 hours away from us. 2 weeks ago, the boy calls his mom to tell her that he and his girlfriend has split up. But they are still living together and she's moved another guy in with them. And he wants to know if we'll make a truck payment for him. Oh, and he also told us that his truck has been broken down with a ruptured brake line for almost 2 months. I said that we are not making a payment unless I have some kind of collateral to ensure that he will pay us back, because he has also quit his job at the same time they came down for the graduation and has been unemployed ever since. A few days pass and he asked if he can come back home. My wife agrees to letting him come back, and I make some phone calls to borrow a car trailer and a 1-ton pickup to haul him home. And trust me, he knows that I'm not happy, so it is literally a 3-hour ride in complete silence. Well, last night he comes in after spending some time with his dad's family, whom he had treated the same way, where he totally cut contact with them until he wanted something something, and he is now telling the wife and I about some things that they had talked about. And honestly, I just tuned out of the conversation. After he leaves the room, she turns to me and starts trying to discuss some of it, and I said, I'm sorry, I tuned it all out. I'm still very upset with him, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. And in order to keep my cool, I had tuned out the conversation with him. She then asked me to do something, which I view as a very unfair thing to ask of me. She says, well, can't you just forgive him for me? I told her that's a tall order, and I don't think it's fair to ask me, since he has not once apologized for all the lies he told, the failure to even say he was sorry to hear that my dad or either of my aunts passed away, as well as showing up at my dad's house, or for that matter, a thank you for coming and getting him and his things, despite how angry I am with him. And I also said, why is it that you feel it's okay to ask that of me, but not okay for you to talk to him about how he's treated all of us and suggest an apology? I've had my job 3 years, and when the guys at work heard what had happened to my dad, they gave us a card, but I literally live with this kid and I couldn't even get a text message. So am I overreacting in this situation? What should I do? Oh man, this one really upsets me. The son in this story is absolutely in the wrong, and your wife is absolutely incorrect in my opinion if she thinks you're the one that needs to initiate any kind of like forgiveness that might be going on. Your stepson literally should be on his hands and knees thanking you and your wife for even letting him back in the house, especially after the way he ghosted you and your wife and left literally all of a sudden overnight. Because the truth of the matter is that he only called you up because he needed something, not because he cared about you or he was sorry about your family passing away. It literally all came down to the fact that he wanted something out of you and he knew he could get it probably through his mom instead of you. Like, his behavior in my opinion is incredibly spoiled and it's super selfish. Like, seriously, it's just so uncalled for. And I think the original poster hit the nail on the head. Why should you just automatically forgive him if he hasn't taken any steps to try and be forgiven? Like, why is that on your back and not his? He's the one that wronged literally the entire family, not you. You literally bent over backwards to make sure this kid's needs were met, and then he runs off with his girlfriend and then begs to come back. So no, I don't think you're overreacting for demanding an apology, because truly, I think your stepson sounds like a spoiled brat. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for forcing people to move out of my seats at a demolition derby, especially after I reserved them 2 weeks in advance? Because after they refused to move and I got the cops involved to make them move, they said that I'm a disgusting individual and that I'm also a terrible person. And now it's left me wondering if I did something wrong or if I might be in the right for deciding to stand up for myself. Here's what happened. Okay, so let's get right down to it, shall we? I bought 5 tickets 2 weeks ago for seats at the Demolition Derby happening near us. And when you buy your tickets online, you must choose your own seats. And I specifically got aisle tickets, so it would be easier to leave in case my 2-year-old got fussy. Well, the event started at 6 o'clock, but that includes the opening ceremony and some little kid races, so we waited an hour to head in because of that, and the line was exceedingly long.
Fulfill our pact! Rise with the sun!
Well, then we see that all the passes we politely asked them to leave, and every single one told us that they had already been here for an hour, and that someone was in their spot, so we need to go find new ones. But then the story changed by saying that they double sold the tickets for this spot. We asked them to please move, or we would get security multiple times.
Burn it down!
They just kept saying, go ahead.
Witness the power of Gugwa!
So I did
Genshin's a song by the frost in the world. Suffer the wrath of each!
And so they followed us to ensure that these
Rise with the sun!
Well, when we came they started calling us disgusting, saying things like, I hope you happy, we were all just terrible people. We responded that they should take us to the ticket people since I have receipts that I bought them 2 weeks ago. And the cop did ask to see my tickets and send the data to payment for the purchase. And you know what? I was going to get a seat that I paid for. If they had just gotten up the first time when we asked politely, they wouldn't be embarrassed with the cops standing right there.
Hey, not a bad haul.
The people complained to the cops, and so the cops told them to show them their tickets, and they would happily do the same to whoever is sitting in their spot. But instead, they stormed off saying that it wasn't fair. Now, you could get tickets day of for standing room only, but even those sell out really fast. And you know what? With all things considered, my son had the best time. There were multiple fires in the engines, and almost all the cars were totaled, and you could smell the the burning radiators from the stands. I kind of feel like a jerk, but I don't actually feel bad about it. Had I been at a professional sporting event, concert, or a theater production, I definitely would have done the same thing. So now I turn to the internet. Was I the jerk for making these people move? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. These people not only stole your seats, but they also tried to make up these bogus excuses as to why they stole the seats. Like they had an excuse for literally anything you could ask them. And they did all of that in some desperate hope that you would just walk away, that you would accept defeat and stand in the back like these people probably paid for. And in my opinion, I cannot stand people who act like this. They go in there and they take the nearest seat, and then they just pray that nobody shows up and they get to reap the reward.
Burn it down! Show my sword!
All super toxic.
Poor Alaska. Show no mercy!
So no, you don't. These people are the real trying to steal the tickets. You reserve them 2 weeks in advance in hopes that you would have a good spot to watch the event.
Light it up!
Somehow entitled to it, in my opinion, is completely disgusting. An entitled customer tries to argue with me over $2 when it comes to buying a salad. I deal with customers like this all the time. I'm honestly so sick of these petty complaints that I really hope people like this don't
Rise with the spring cutter!
So I don't
Get to work!
price or items if I can. For example, if you want a jigsaw puzzle or a store, they would most likely ring up as jigsaw puzzle and stand mixer respectively. But in my store, they ring up as toys and kitchens. As a result, switching tags from one item to another. Now, we can't explicitly say that the person that bought something and tag to the register is the one that did it. We say, I'm sorry, but the tag that is on this item is incorrect. The actual price is this.
Time to act. Let me read you a verse. With one heart, we pray. Show no mercy! You two! Burn it down!
Well, we have this customer with a wrong tag, and doesn't know the real price. The tag on it says $2.99. When I get up to the front, I explain to the woman that the price is incorrect, and that I know we don't sell our salad bowls at $2.99.
The rewards of an adventure
unless
worth
they are
remembering.
plastic or something like that, and that I could instead sell it to her for $4.99. Well, when I said that, she was definitely not happy with me, and explained that there were tons of salad bowls back there that were this price, and that we always are doing this to her, that every time she comes in to buy something, we change the price of something that she is buying, which really made me want to say to her that if we are always changing the price on stuff that you buy, maybe it's because you are switching the tags. Now, I didn't actually say this, but it does kind of seem suspicious, right? Well, when she said that, I just smiled at her, and I explained that we are not changing the price because of her, but because instead someone switched the tags on her items, and that the tag is incorrect. This is just our store policy, and that I could call a manager if she really wanted me to. Well, when I said that, she said no, that it was the fact that we are changing the price, even though we priced it at $2.99, and that she would have bought it if it was $2 or even $12. Well, I explained to her again that we don't price our salad bowls at $2.99, and that this was just wrong, and that I was giving her a correct price based on our pricing range. She ended up buying the bowl, and when I had time, I went to our kitchen aisle and I looked at the prices on each of our salad bowls.
The rewards
to look
of an
for any
adventure
the
worth
ones that are
remembering.
labeled as $2.99. Well, every single salad bowl, bigger or smaller than the one she bought, was literally $6.99. And hers was the fanciest one, so I think the $4.99 bowl was a great deal. But regardless, I'm so tired of customers trying to argue with me about prices that seriously, it really wears me down and it's super annoying. Yeah, this one really kind of strikes a chord with me because I've dealt with something like this similar when I worked retail. Like seriously, it seems like sometimes the customer is unwilling to listen to whatever you're saying and will get hung up on a $2 difference that they are completely wrong about. And I'm sure if you had more time on your hands, you probably would have loved nothing more than going back there with her and having her show you what the prices actually are for the bowls. Because chances are the price was definitely not for $2.99, and she is most likely the one who's switching it around behind your back. Am I the jerk for leaving my friend while we were on vacation after she decided to go off and spend the night with a couple of guys that she just met that night? Because now I'm finding out that something bad happened to my friend, and right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong for deciding to leave. Here's what happened. My friend and I are 22-year-old females, and we drove to our vacation in North Carolina, and the trip started off rough as my friend was being very short-tempered and rude for the duration duration of the trip. The night before I left, we went out drinking. My friend decided to befriend a group of guys and bar hop with them. I reluctantly followed as the hotel room was in her name and she had the only key, and I did not want to just leave her out with them. Eventually, she got cut off at one of the bars we were at, and as we walked back to the hotel, she's walking with these two random guys. And mind you, we both have boyfriends. I tell her I am not going back to the hotel with these guys, and I will find a way to get my own room if I really need to. She then says that she will just go hang out with the guys somewhere else and mentions that she has lost the hotel key. I obviously tried tirelessly to convince her not to leave with the guys and to just ditch them. I tried to get her to go to the front desk and get a new room key, as her name was the only name for the room, so I couldn't do it. I tried so hard, but there was just no convincing her at this point. So the last I see of her is that she's at the valet trying to get her car. I then call my grandmother and I cry on the phone to her explaining the situation. Then I fall asleep on a bench outside the hotel, seeing as I can't get a room key myself. My grandma was able to call the hotel for me and somehow talk them into getting me a key. I then slept for a few hours, and when I woke up, I booked a flight home. I no longer felt safe with my friend because of the situation I was put in. I looked at her location, and she was an hour and a half away at what looked like a military base. I texted my friend, and I let her know I was not okay with anything that happened, and I did not feel comfortable being with her the duration of the trip or driving home with her, so I decided to fly back that day. Well, she woke up and answered saying that she had no idea where she was at and didn't know what happened the night before, and she didn't know how she was going to get back to the hotel.
The rewards of an
time,
adventure worth remembering.
I was already at the airport about to board, and by the time I'm off my plane, she had blocked me on everything. Well, today I wake up and I have text messages and calls from an investigator saying that he works for NCIS and that there was a case reported by my friend. He wanted to set up an interview so that I could better help them understand what happened that night. Now, my friend has not talked to me at all. However, she has talked to a mutual friend of ours saying that something bad happened and that she's been at the hospital for 2 days, but it has not even been 48 hours since we were at the bars together. So am I the jerk for leaving? If so, what should I do differently? And what should I do about this situation moving forward? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. You clearly dodged a very sketchy situation, and you absolutely did the right thing by not getting involved in what your friend was doing. Like, I can only imagine the worst of what actually happened at that military base, but just think what could have happened to you if you decided to go along with her. If you decided not to stand your ground and try to be there for her in some kind of way. Like, your gut instinct in that situation absolutely probably saved your life, because your friend is out of her mind if she thought it was a good idea to go bar hopping with guys that she's never met. Like, those are the prime suspects that would harm her, and clearly something did happen. And you know what? That honestly is not your fault. It's an awful situation, don't get me wrong. Like, this really is very unfortunate, and I really do feel bad for your friend. But at the end of the day, this is literally her own fault. This does not fall on your shoulders in the slightest, and I know if I was in your shoes, I definitely would have left the next day as well. My entitled dad always gets everybody sick anytime he gets sick, and as someone with chronic illness as well as a bad immune system, I'm seriously at my breaking point, as I simply cannot get sick again because of this man, despite my desperate pleadings that he not only stay away from me, but also take my health more seriously. Here's what happened. Okay, so last year, my dad got the flu, and he refused to quarantine himself, and then made us drive in the car with him with no AC on. As a result, we all got the flu, and it was a horrible experience. But he didn't seem bothered by the fact that he got literally everybody sick. In
Go on, take them.
He went to Europe
I'll
for
thank the
work,
stars
and when he
for
came
you
back,
later.
We asked him to quarantine because it was peak COVID. Well, he said he didn't feel sick and refused to wear a mask, and he hugged all of us when he arrived. And then for the next 2 days, literally touched everything in the house. And after that, as you can probably guess, he then tested positive for COVID. Now, luckily, nobody got sick, but we did fight with him because we asked him to take precautions and he completely refused to do so. He's now been feeling sick ever since Monday, and I asked him 5 times to get a COVID test and stay away from me because I was sick 2 weeks ago and I don't want to miss work again. I also have chronic health issues, so I don't need another illness on top of what I already have. Well, Friday, he decides to inform me that he knew one of his coworkers has COVID and he interacted with him days ago. He refused to quarantine and touched everything in the kitchen last week. He spent hours with my mom and sister in the car, continued to go to work, and even went to a Broadway show while feeling sick. He coughed everywhere because of his reflux and never even covered his mouth. And even still, he wouldn't get the COVID test. He drove in my car when I asked him not to because I don't want to get contaminated. Then today, day, he finally took the test and he tested positive for COVID, and he was laughing about it the entire time. This whole week, I've tried to stay away from him. I've tried to wash my hands, eat separately, and I wore a mask while my whole family made fun of me.
Go on, take them. I'll thank the stars for you later.
How hard it is for him to comprehend that I don't want to get sick.
Burn it down!
So I'm quarantining myself because he refuses to do so. But even then, I'm starting to develop a fever and a headache now. Truly, I'm at a loss on how to deal with him. Sometimes he acknowledges that he should have been more careful, but then he just does it again. He told me that he barely feels sick and doesn't understand that while he barely feels sick, I may get COVID and have much worse symptoms due to my health issues. I'm honestly at such a loss because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Your dad and your family are super disrespectful. First of all, I'm sure that they know you don't have a good immune system. I'm sure this is not some kind of like secret that you're keeping from them, and that they are well informed that you really should not be getting sick. So the fact that he still did this and was coughing everywhere and was refusing to get a COVID test or quarantine or anything like that is a massive sign that he literally just does not care. He thinks that this is just a joke. Meanwhile, you're the one who's gonna have to pay for it. And that is so unfair for you. Literally, you're just trying to live a healthy life and you're trying to stay out of like, I don't know, taking more sick days from work. And here he is just walking around being like, oh, I feel fine, there's nothing wrong with me. And just completely disrespecting your space as well as your health. So in my opinion, I think it might be time to be very blunt with him.
Light it up! Rain outlines your luscious immune. Get to work!
My life is at risk. He's in denial for some reason that no, you're not actually that sick, or he's just completely incompetent about what it means to have a bad immune system. But either way, his behavior is absolutely disgusting. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be looking to probably move on, especially if I had
Cutter. Genshin's a song. Fulfill our pact! Suffer the wrath of Eve! Light of the blazing sun!
Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to see more stories. My entitled parents have spent a lifetime treating me like the lesser son,
Hey, not
all
a bad
because
haul.
they simply love my older brother more than me. But after my older brother announced that he is not moving back in with them after college, they lost their minds in a way that I've never seen before, and I'm honestly still shocked, and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I've been away for 2 years, and I kinda expected that I'd be back to post one last time in 2024 because my brother went for a 4-year bachelor's degree, much like I am currently doing. For those who remember my previous posts, I'm the guy whose parents basically got their butts verbally handed to them by the family for bad favoritism towards my older brother. Crap really hit the fan on my 18th birthday because my parents barely put any effort into it and went all out on my brother's 18th birthday in 2020 during the pandemic. They even managed to get a DJ for the party, and then they presented him with a car. Well, on my 18th birthday, I got no car or even anything close to a similar party, even though my academic standing was better than my brother's. I basically worked too hard for my parents' approval, and I never got it. When I asked them why my brother got a car and not me, they claimed that my brother worked harder for it, which was later confirmed to not be true when I got a bigger scholarship. Well, my grandma happened to be eavesdropping, and she laid into my parents, and then she got the rest of the family involved. And for the record, they were planning on getting involved anyways. My grandma just stepped things up right then and there, but after several family members laid into them, my parents just tried to save face and buy me a car, but they treated me like a brat who was getting a new toy when they gave me the keys. It was a late 90s Subaru that I honestly thought was great, but it turned out to have a blown head gasket that had barely been holding together with sealer. My parents treated me like I was a brat for wanting equal treatment, and then when the car went bad, their reaction was to apathetically shrug and call it karma, which caused my grandparents to start it all over again with them and caused a huge family intervention. I got many people messaging me and asking if having a car was really necessary, and that I basically forced my parents into it. But I didn't force anything, and it would have happened anyways if I didn't ask my parents why. And you know what? I really did need the car. I had no way of having a job without one. My parents lived 10 miles from the nearest bus stop, and I literally had no way of making money before college without a car. And no, I couldn't get rides. No one was available for that on a daily basis. So many people I talked to here tried to dance around my reasoning to insert their own logic, many of which I felt were projecting their own problems onto me. And then there was the the straight up trolls and jerks. I don't even want to repeat, let alone remember what they all said to me. But a lot of them kept it up after I got the verdict that no, I'm not the jerk, almost as if they had an axe to grind. And it really did not help my mental state at the time. Now, as you can imagine, my family laid into my parents all over again in that family intervention. And by the time they were done, they looked like scolded kids sitting there looking at their feet. The Subaru was sold as junk, and my grandparents essentially forced my parents to buy me a better car. So I ended up getting a Honda Civic, and my uncle went over the car with a fine-tooth comb before they bought it. And that time, my parents didn't even treat me like a brat. And yes, I still have the Honda, and yes, it still works fine. I've kept up with the oil changes and the like, and I've not had any accidents either, as I really am a careful driver. But honestly, the final thing that broke my parents before I left was finding out that I got a better scholarship than my brother. Any excuses they'd previously had to favor my brother so completely were thrown out the window, and were forced to give me words of encouragement I knew they didn't mean. And in wondering why they disliked me so much, I later found out from my grandma why I was treated differently was because my parents had wanted their second child to be a girl. My grandma ended up admitting even more to me later after I left for college. Before I was born, my parents were so convinced that I would be a girl that they bought a bunch of girl stuff without even checking my gender through ultrasound. Well, I found out from my grandma about a year ago that my mom tried raising me as a girl for like the first 6 months of my life. She was putting me in girls' clothing and calling me by a different name, and my father completely enabled it all. And I know this is all true because my grandma showed me old family photos of me and my brother when I was an infant, and I was wearing pink in all of them. There was even a visible name tag on some of them, and on it had the name my parents wanted for a girl. But once word got out, my parents stopped dressing me as a girl. My grandparents told my mother that trying to raise me as something I wasn't even giving me a choice on whether or not I wanted to be that. And although my family is rather old school, my grandparents are surprisingly open-minded people, and they put the hammer down on my parents. So the girl treatment stopped, but instead of new clothing, they gave me my brother's hand-me-downs for years. That is, until my grandparents noticed that as well and did something about it. Finding out all of this made me realize that my grandparents kept my childhood for being far worse than it was, and they never told me until this past couple of years. So to that end, I am incredibly thankful for them. My mother apparently also struggled to call me by my real name for 2 years or so, and because my parents didn't get a girl, they refused to connect with me like they did my brother. You know, the boy that they actually wanted. And when my grandparents heard I wasn't getting anything new like my brother was, they said that they would petition for guardianship over me, and that they had evidence of the various things I described too. Well, my parents couldn't stand for anything that could become a public scandal, so they stopped with the hand-me-downs and pretended to love me for a while. But as I got older, it degenerated into complete indifference, and then maybe into hate. I'm honestly not sure. Hate means that you still care in some kind of way, but indifference is the actual opposite of love. I just know my parents couldn't accept that their favorite son wasn't the best at everything compared to their unwanted son. And since I moved out, they've barely interacted with the family. They threw themselves into work, in part because the rest of the family forced them to contribute to my college, like they did my brothers, but also because to them, working was the only thing that gave them a reason to tell everyone to leave them alone. My grandma suspects they've even slept in their cars a few times just to avoid going home. I only saw my parents at Christmas at my uncle's house for the past couple of years, and they barely even spoke to me. Now that I was living my best life away from them, I guess you could say that they just stopped bothering to act like I was their son. They don't want me anymore after the family humiliation they feel like they suffered, even though they know they brought it on themselves, and they've become workaholics to do little else. My grandmother told me my bedroom is basically exactly how I left it on the day that I moved out. My parents have not even gone inside of it, but they kept my brother's room clean and ready for the day that he'd finally come back home after college. Except that is not what happened. They flew out to see him for his graduation and had a big celebration with him. And of course, I was not invited. Not that I could afford it in the first place. But my grandparents went along and they gave me all the juicy details. My parents were still convinced my brother would be coming back home. And that's when he awkwardly told them that he already secured a job through an internship that he had done the past year, and that he had found an apartment of his own too. Well, when they heard this, my father became furious, and my mother lost her mind crying and begging him to come home. But he refused. You see, this past 2 years, my brother and I have reconnected a bit. He found my account online and then he called me. He wasn't angry, but honestly just wanted to talk. He admitted to me that our parents put him through a lot as well. Our parents absolutely smothered him, especially when I wasn't around. And our father was also quite strict with his expectations. So the fact that I did better than my brother brother when our parents had invested everything into him just completely broke them. And now they're extra broken because my brother refused to come home with them. The way our parents treated my brother is also the reason we stopped connecting as siblings until this past couple of years. He did bully me at times when we were growing up, but that's because being the favorite went to his head. But it was favoritism with strings attached. And when he realized that, he got counseling after moving out. My brother also has a girlfriend that he met while in college, and he kept her a secret because he knew our parents wouldn't approve, and well, they didn't when they found out. So my brother blew up on them, especially when my mother referred to his girlfriend as if she was some kind of like lady of the night, if you know what I mean. Mind you, my mom hasn't even met her at this point. For the record, my brother's girlfriend is in nursing school and a year away from graduation herself. And my brother says that she's the best. Now, I've never met her, but she sounds wonderful by the way he's described her. My grandma told me my mother went so far as to hire a private investigator to find out who my brother's girlfriend actually was. And she was actually irritated to know that she was squeaky clean. And she came from a good family on the same side politically too. But in her mind, she was the reason my brother wasn't coming back, even though my brother made it clear he decided that before even meeting his girlfriend. My father had basically become stoically silent about it from what I heard, but my mother let it slip to my brother that she'd hired a detective, and my brother gave our parents a piece of his mind, and this led to a whole argument about how they gave him everything, and he was ungrateful for not coming back, but he called them out that being the favorite child is awful as well, because they nearly made him like them, and this absolutely broke my parents to hear that. My brother told our grandparents, and they staged another family intervention, one that I was even involved in through video call. My parents tried to not even pay attention to me, but even my brother told them to talk to me. We all told them enough was enough. They had 2 sons and they needed to start treating us fairly, because they let something as idiotic as not being born the gender they wanted to ruin their love for me from day one. It was then that my father hit his breaking point. He started screaming out loud, "You want us to admit we messed up? Well, yeah, we did. What do you want us to do about it? You want us to time travel? We're paying for the original poster's college too. What more does he want from us?" Eventually, things ended very poorly in that intervention. My mom cried that she was sorry to me, but even then, I still didn't feel her heart was in it, because she didn't spend much time apologizing to me at all before moving on to my brother through the phone he was video calling from. And she spent a long time crying and apologizing to him. That is, until he told her to go back and actually apologize to me like she meant it. Well, it was at that moment that my father grabbed the phone and shut it off. Then he just sat down and told everybody else to leave. The last thing my grandparents said to my parents was that they were disappointed in them, and that maybe losing both sons has finally shown them that they should have never favored one of us. Right now, my parents are not on speaking terms with the rest of the family. My grandma heard a rumor they may be planning to move, but they have a paid-off country home and great careers. I feel like they would be fools to move. But since my brother isn't going back, and I'm not likely to go back either, I suppose it's not really an issue. I kind of doubt that they would welcome me in if I visit after the crap that went down, but I am still very thankful to them for helping to pay for my college. My student loans were significantly reduced thanks to them, but when it comes to being parents themselves, I think we can all agree that they just didn't do a very good job. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that your parents absolutely suck, and they played favorites to such a degree that it literally almost ruined your life. Like, that's not fair for you at all, and from the sounds of it, especially based on your backstory, this has been going on ever since you were a kid, and that's just not fair. Not only that they didn't treat you correctly or even equally with your brother, but also that you just found out that they didn't even want you in the first place. They wanted a little girl and not a boy. So for them to treat you in this way and basically like ostracize you from the family and forcibly make you the rejected son, like that in my opinion is just straight up awful, because you did not deserve that in the slightest, and they are awful parents for the way that they treated you. An entitled old jerk demands a price cut literally only because of his age and his veteran status. But when I deny him his request, he claims that I'm disrespecting veterans for not giving him my product at 1/3 of the price. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I build scale model ships because I'm kind of lame. Unfortunately, the genre is dominated by often angry old people who seem to think that the rest of us owe them everything because they managed to get old. Now, let me get down to some specifics. I have a lot of rare resin kits that I've collected over the years, and I have decided to offload some stuff that were mostly impulse buys. I checked eBay's sold auctions and other examples of recent sales, and I decided to price my items accordingly. I paid for a vendor booth at a show, and people really were cool for the most part. Many did bargain with me, and that's okay. I sold some bundles, and then I moved on to reasonable offers. Well, that's when this old entitled jerk steps in, who evidently was alive purely on his own self-persecution and bitterness. This guy saw a large resin model kit of a Japanese battleship that I had priced at about $375. This was the original retail, with recent sales well north of $400. He came by a few times, and he grumbled about my prices being too high for people on fixed incomes, but I honestly just ignored him. Well, towards the end of the show, he came back to my booth and offered me $100 for it, but I just flatly refused. He told me he'd always wanted that kit and would build it, and that he's a disabled veteran that feels better when he builds. But I was unsurprised given his previous whinings at my booth and prior shows. I'm not joking when I say he tends to walk even more laboriously when trying to rip off a vendor. So I told him thank you for your service, and then I said I would sell him the kit for $325 cash, which is what I paid for. Well, when I said that, the dude fell into a complete rage, accusing me of disrespecting veterans. He then told me to my face that I take advantage of old people who don't have the money for expensive things. Now, as a side note, this guy has gout breath, and trust me, if you know, you know. I reminded him that this is a hobby. It's not his home or his food bill or his transportation. After calling me everything but a white boy, the man kicks my vendor table and stomps away like a petulant 6th grader. Now, what was the worst part about all of this? I had other old entitled modelers asking me why I couldn't work with him because of the aforementioned reasons. They were less antagonistic, but they were kind of rooting for his side as well. And these same people wonder why younger folk don't attend scale model shows, or why it's becoming increasingly hard to find vendors who don't simply use an online auction or some kind of marketplace. I'm all down with giving deals, but trying to guilt someone into compliance is honestly a really awful thing to do. Yeah, that's really rude in my opinion. Just because you want something and you're like really adamant about getting it, doesn't mean you have to be like, wow, you disrespect veterans. You're making me pay full price instead of giving it to me at a third of the price. Like seriously, that is so obnoxious and so uncalled for. The original poster wasn't disrespecting this guy because he was a veteran. He was polite and professional, but still remained firm on his prices and said, listen, this is what it cost. So good for you for standing up for yourself, because this guy was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for yelling at my neighbor's kids after they knowingly scratched my car and then rode off on their bikes to try and avoid any kind of responsibility? Because right now, in retrospect, I worry that I might have taken things a bit too far, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so today I was doing some yard work when the neighbor's kid, who is about 15 years old, came out of their garage with their bicycles. We share a driveway since it is a townhouse block, and I had my car parked outside. Since I just got a new car a few weeks ago, I am admittedly paranoid about any potential damage. So as they wheeled their bikes through the space between my car and the neighbors, I was watching very closely. Once they reached the end of the driveway, one of the kids put the bike on the kickstand and walked back towards the house. And as they walked away, the bike fell over, hitting the side of my car. When they heard the bike hit the car and fall to the ground, they looked at the side of the car and then directly at me. And then they got on the bike and rode off. Well, I got up to check and see if there was any damage, and there was a black scratch on the bumper. The other sibling, who had not ridden off yet, was there, and I told him that the other had scratched the car and took off. So they said they would go get them and come back. And a few minutes later, they returned. Well, when they returned, I raised my voice at both of them, and I said that when you damage someone's property, you don't pretend that it didn't happen. You apologize and you try to make it right. They were saying that they didn't see the scratch and that they didn't hear it, and all sorts of other excuses. But since they made direct eye contact with me when it happened, this only made me angrier. After a few minutes, I managed to get the scratch off the car, so there was no damage and the kids rode off. But with all of this in mind, am I the jerk for yelling at these kids instead of waiting for their parents to return home? What should I do? No, I don't think you're in the wrong for yelling at these kids, because clearly they did not want to get in trouble for something they definitely did. Whether you remove the scratch or not, the fact that they rode off trying to like escape any kind of responsibility, in my opinion, is super inappropriate, because you have it right in my opinion. If you damage someone's property, you absolutely need to fess up to it. It is the right thing to do in my opinion, especially when you do it literally right in front of the person who owns the property. So no, I don't think you're in the wrong at all, because the way these kids acted by running off, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My toxic entitled father demands that I allow him to move into my home, despite the fact that he has burned every bridge in my family family, as well as mistreated me, my mom, and my kids. So I decided that enough was enough, and in that moment, I put my foot down hard, telling him exactly how I feel after so many years of awful treatment. Here's what happened. Okay, so my parents are divorced because my dad cheated, and there is a lot I could say about this, but when it comes to having a short version, basically, my mom found out my dad was cheating, and she started the divorce proceedings. As a result, my dad got vindictive and started to allow and encourage his mistress to get vindictive towards my mom. Well, when his mistress broke up with him, he tried to come crawling back to my mom, who shut the door in his face. And as a result, he spent the whole divorce process lashing out at my mom, me, and my other siblings and our kids, all the way to the point where we had to all go no contact with him. Anyways, the divorce was finalized. Dad and his mistress have been on again and off again, and they even had a kid together. There was some drama where he denied the kid was his, but when he got a paternity test, it all proved that it definitely was his. Well, fast forward, and he actually showed up to my house a few weeks ago and told me that he was going to stay with me. Mind you, he didn't ask me, he told me. And not just that, but he also told me that while he was here, my husband and I needed to move into the guest bedroom so he could use our room as it was an in-suite, because you know, he definitely needs that. Now, as you can imagine, I put my foot down, and I put it down hard. I told him after everything he did, how dare he darken my doorstep, and worse, not even apologize, not even to ask how I am or how his grandkids are, but instead to dictate to me that he is staying in my house. I am normally a pretty calm and go-with-the-flow kind of person, but I just lost it, and I screamed all the things that he did to us. The vindictive attacks, the way he used my kids as weapons to get back at me, and the smear campaigns that he led against my mom. Well, he ended up screaming back. When you came crying home after you broke up with your ex, I let you stay in my house and eat my food, and I just let you come home. I didn't act like a complete jerk like you. Now, to be clear, the breakup he's talking about was when my former fiance cheated on me with multiple women. Oh, and also for anyone who hasn't read my previous post, it is not his house, it's my mom's, and he tried to steal it from her during the divorce to give it to his bratty mistress. So at that point, I decided just to shut the door on him. Long story short, the police had to be called as my dad refused to leave, and I even found out today why he tried to stay with me. His mistress has been bleeding him dry with child support and alimony. I think they've broken up for good, and he's had to sell every asset he had, and now he's completely broke. And I know this because he's staying with my uncle, who is his brother, and he called me to let me know exactly what's going on. The saddest and funniest part about all of this is how my dad won't stop talking about how heartless and ungrateful I am to literally anybody who will listen to him. And he is posting passive-aggressive posts on his Facebook account about how he does everything for his kids, but then they throw him to the curb. This whole ordeal over the last few years has been very hard. I've been going to therapy and have slowly been coming to terms with the fact that my father isn't the man I thought he was, and he likely never will be. But when he did this, it brought back a lot of hurt. I can't believe he would do this to me. I just don't understand how somebody can do this and can behave this way. But honestly, it is what it is. My dad's an entitled, vindictive jerk to everybody, and I never thought I'd be able to say that, but I'm honestly so glad that I can. Wow, imagine being so entitled that you show up to your kid's house who you have completely betrayed and say, oh, not only are you gonna let me in your house, but you and your husband are also gonna have to move out. Like, what was he thinking? After all the things he put your family through, as well as the smear campaign against your mom, and all the horrible ways he tried to use your kids against you, like, this guy is absolutely walking on thin ice. He has no business being around you or anybody else in your family, because he is literally just so toxic. And worst of all, he literally just doesn't care, because he seriously thought he could walk into your house and you guys would just let him in as if nothing happened. So truly, I'm so sorry that he acted this way, and I really hope you never have to deal with him ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting for not wanting to talk to my partner's family, as they basically said that I wasn't good for my partner since I have been unemployed for about 5 months? Because right now I am still very hurt, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my partner and I have been dating for about 4 years. I'm a lawyer and she works in tech, and we live together. Well, I lost my job this spring and I qualified for unemployment benefits. I'm also lucky to have an emergency fund and no debt. And my partner's job is great and she makes plenty of money. This period of unemployment was really good for me. With more time and energy to reflect, I
Victory is
admitted to
almost
myself that
yours.
I had been depressed for over a year.
that was a
I also
tough
realized
fight.
that law firm litigation is not the right path for me. So for the first 3 months after losing my job, I focused on healing myself and rethinking my career direction. I went to therapy, I resumed exercise, I reduced my alcohol assumption, I began prescription medication, I kept a clean house and I played with my dog, I improved my relationships, enjoyed outdoor hobbies, read challenging books, did pro bono work, and met many people to chat about different career paths. I applied to about 100 or so jobs, and I even interviewed for a few of them, but it wasn't all that important to me. I also played a lot of video games during this time, often until the wee hours of the morning. I mostly played thoughtful, story-driven games alone, and sometimes when I was stoned. On occasion, I played multiplayer games with my partner's sister, who doesn't have many friends right now in her new city. My mental health improved greatly, and I've been in a full-time white-knuckle job hunt for the past 2 months. I'm getting more interviews, and hopefully something will pan out soon, but I'm supporting myself without issue in the meantime, and I still cover about 50% of our living cost. Well, yesterday, I overheard my partner having a passionate conversation with her mother on the phone. I realized that she was defending someone and accusing her mother of projecting, but I didn't want to listen in. A few minutes later, the call ended, and she left the room with a sullen face. Then I asked her about her conversation, and she explained that her mother says the entire family is soured on her relationship with me, and they are very concerned about her. They also know, as a sister confirmed, that I am playing video games most nights, and sometimes during the day, and that I use the herb, and as such, they don't think that I'm sufficiently focused on my career, and that our relationship is doomed as a result. Then, last night, my partner received text messages from her sisters. The texts were similar in tone and content, advising that she leave and offering their support. The text messages read as if I'm mistreating my partner, indicating that I'm manipulating her to stay with me while I fail out of my career. This completely caught me off guard. My partner's family seemed to really like me. Both of her siblings have stayed with us. I went to one of my partner's sister's wedding and have had quite a few positive social experiences hanging out with my partner and her other sister. The parents wanted us to go on a trip with them, which I abstained from because I had to work. How did their opinion of me become so negative so quickly after a single career setback? They know my partner isn't paying for me, and my work ethic is fine. My background is more of a hard-working underdog type of story than most, and I'm healthy and motivated again. And I don't mistreat anybody. I'm a gentle person who would totally be supportive of my partner if she actually wanted to leave me. And above all, my partner is an intelligent adult who knows her needs much better than they do. She can make her own decisions. I told my partner today that I don't want to interact with her immediate family anymore, unless doing so is necessary for some important reason. And when I said that, she said that she understood, but she was still upset. So am I overreacting in this situation? We all gossip, I guess, and I may also be overly sensitive to the relative socioeconomic class disparity between my partner's family and mine. And maybe I'm projecting some of the resentment I feel for how I've been treated in other situations by more privileged people. What should I do? Okay, I have to say I can kind of see both sides of this. For starters, I think her family really is trying to seek out her best interest, but they've gone way beyond the mark in my opinion. It's one thing to be concerned about your career path and what you're doing for a job, but it's an entirely different thing in my opinion to be like, oh, he's gonna hold you back. He's manipulative and he's being so terrible towards you. You need to dump him and move along. Because to me at least, that gives off this energy that they were almost like wanting to say that for a long time, and they finally got the chance to like express how they feel right then and there. As if this is somehow like the best opportunity to be like, okay, now you can finally dump this guy after 4 years. But on the other hand, I do understand that they're like, wait a second, this guy hasn't had a job for 5 months, and he's spending all his time playing video games and smoking the herb. Like if I was her family member and I saw that happening, I probably would be worried as well. But I would much rather have a conversation of some kind, instead of saying something like, oh yeah, get out while you can, this is a sinking ship, or something along those lines. Like that just seems like really extreme in my opinion. So with all that in mind and all the context that you could possibly have towards this story, I think you're completely justified for saying that you don't want to talk to these people anymore. They've shown their true colors in a way that you never expected because you thought they had your back to some degree, but it's clear that they want to play the toxic route, and I honestly don't blame you for not wanting to talk to them. My mother-in-law is incredibly intrusive in my life as she is constantly entering our room and cleaning our bedroom, all without my permission. And now, after dealing with this for so long, I feel like I'm at my breaking point because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, before I go any further, I need to give you some background. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I got married a few months ago to my husband. Prior to this, we had been dating for 5+ years. We are from a country where the culture expects married couples to stay with a man's parents. Although I was very against this setup before the wedding, mostly because I already owned property that we could have used, my partner insisted that staying with his parents would be a better financial decision for us. Fast forward to now, and we've been living with his parents for a few months now. I moved into my husband's bedroom, and we have our own washroom as well. But all other spaces are not private, as they are shared with his parents. When we first moved in after the wedding, I noticed that my mother-in-law, who is a stay-at-home mom, would make our beds on days where we had forgotten or maybe we were running late. The one place I can call my own in this home is my bedroom, and it made me so upset that someone had invaded my